How's it going, everyone? Welcome to this week's Q&A. So like any other video, if you want a chance at one of your questions being answered, make sure you drop a comment down below in the comment section of this video. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with the first question of the week. And it is, should you use 91 or better octane in any vehicle? And in my opinion, I'm gonna say absolutely. If it's forced induction, so anything with a turbo, then even more so. But even on an all-motor application, I use 91, or in my area, I'll use 93 or 94 on my personal vehicle. So I do have a 21 TLX Type S on a Stage 1 Flash, and I have a 19 Pilot completely stock. And on both vehicles, I use a 93. So my reasoning is behind that, even on a all-motor vehicle application, so like my Pilot, for instance, there is preventative measures to prevent detonation and stuff like that, like the knock sensor, but it could only do so much. So if you've ever driven your car, specifically in a hot summer day, and you go to accelerate and you hear from your engine, like it sounds like a whole bunch of marbles going on, that is a detonation and or pinging, and the vehicle isn't able to reduce timing or retard timing enough to prevent that from happening. So even if that's not the case, it still picks up some knock, and it could eventually lead to some misfiring, which leads to damaging the cats prematurely. So especially if you're keeping the car long term, then I would absolutely recommend using 91 or better octane fuel, and your vehicle will oftentimes get even better gas mileage with that better fuel, and your cats won't get any premature damage due to that low octane fuel. So once again, 91 or better in any vehicle, in my personal opinion. I've had nothing but success with that. I've never had to replace any cat on any of my vehicles, even some higher mileage ones. And a lot of times we do see a lot of cat deterioration. Obviously there's other factors, but that is one to highly consider. On the bright side, a lot of these cats are covered, at least in New Jersey, for usually typically like 10,000, 150,000 miles or 10 years, something along those lines. So in the event that something like that does happen, you will be covered. But if you're watching this channel, then 9 out of 10 times you're going to be on the aggressive side of the maintenance, and this is only more part of that. So hopefully that answers the question for you. So the next question is, at what service interval should you be adjusting your valves or checking the clearance? And I'm going to say between 90 and 100,000 miles in most cases. Obviously, if your car is modified and you're abusing it, I would say somewhere around 60,000 miles or sooner, depending on the situation. So a lot of times these valves will tighten up, they won't loosen and make noise, and the tightening of the valves actually leads to misfire. So one of my instructors at Honda school a long time ago always told me a loose valve is a happy valve. So you rather hear a valve ticking versus having it too tight and you don't hear anything but causing misfires, which happens a lot right out the gate on these vehicles. Now, Honda's been good with that lately, but for a long time there, we had brand new cars with misfires, and it usually led to over tightened valve adjustments. So it wasn't anything drastic, but just enough to where it was too tight and causing a misfire. So when I do valve adjustments on any vehicle, I always check them. If they're loose, I leave them, unless if the owner really wants me to go in there and quiet it down. But again, I tell them exactly what I'm saying right now, and 9 out of 10 times they'll say, all right, we're going to trust what you're saying and go with that. Now, if the valve is tight, then obviously at that point, the valve has sunk into the head, and I'll adjust the valves to the largest clearance that is acceptable by Honda. Never the medium or the lowest, because obviously if the valve got tight, chances are it's going to get there at some point again. So like this, it gives you a little bit more leeway and hopefully kick the bucket down the road a little bit. But typically, we're doing 90 to 100,000 miles. I think that's a great service interval. Obviously, if you're not driving a car, there's no need to do it at 15 years. If you only have 20,000 miles on the car, that's not how it works. But if you wanted to do it just to do it, then that'd be okay as well. So hopefully that answers the question for you. So the next question is, do I miss working on the old K series and the F series and S2000 and the DSIs and stuff like that versus what I'm working on now? And to be honest, it really doesn't matter to me. I love working on anything new and really learning the new engine, the new design, how everything works. Unfortunately, when they are new, it's typically covered under warranty, and that won't be obviously a profitable job. But I do enjoy it. I'm actually eager to tear down into one of these new TLX Type S or MDX Type S engines, as well as the new pilots with the quad VTC and the 4 camshafts, and no longer having your typical rock arms or anything like that. So I'm real eager to see what's going on inside there and just really learn and dig into it. Hopefully I won't have to, because that means A, there was a catastrophic failure on one of these new engines, and B, I'm probably not going to be making much money on that car. But I would take that and and just have the chance to learn and to just really get a better look and dive into that. But as far as working on the older engines versus the new 1.5Ts or the new K series or anything like that, really doesn't matter to me. Any chance I have to dig into something newer, I embrace it and just try to accept it and learn from that. Just move forward and make me better if I have to go back in there and do it quicker the following time. So hopefully that answers the question for you. So this next question is, what do I prefer, the 3rd gen or the 4th gen CRV? So the 3rd gen was 07 to 11, I want to say, and next generation, which was the 4th generation, was 12 to 16. And I'm just gonna say both of them obviously had their issues. The 3rd gen is one of my personal favorites, although I do like the 4th gen if it's the refresh model, so the 15 or 16 year, came with the newer Earthstreams engine and the CVT. I know a lot of people knock the CVT transmissions, but they are great. And actually the old 5AT from 12 to 14 does have some issues with juddering and torque converter lockup and stuff like that, just mostly because people don't maintain them. But there is some issues also on the 3rd gen, a lot of AC compressor failures, a lot of links going bad on both generations. So both of them have their issues. I'm going to say whatever you can find for the best price with reasonable mileage. Check the undercarriage, make sure there's no rust going on if you live in an area where rust is common, and just really pick your poison and go from there. Personally, I would probably try to go for something newer, like a 15-16 CRV. I personally had a 15 Touring. It was a great vehicle. The Navi was a little bit outdated even at the time when it came out. That was really my only gripe with it, but it was a great vehicle. I thought the wheels looked great. The 18s were nice, a nice look on a car, and it gave me no issues. I've also had, I believe it was an 07 or 08 CRV, and it had, at the time when I purchased it, like 220,000 miles. I drove it till I had like 280,000, and again, no issues with the exception of a stiff shifter cable, and it did actually end up blowing the compressor, which I replaced. I cleaned thoroughly and everything was good, which was a common issue. Obviously, there was a lot of maintenance work done to that vehicle due to the mileage, but once again, anything you could get for the better deal on within its limits, I would just pick that vehicle, and I really don't think you have a wrong choice here. So hopefully that answers the question for you. All right, so the final question of this week, and once again, if you want a chance at one of your questions being answered, make sure you do drop a comment down below. Make sure you guys like this video too. It definitely helps with the algorithm and get this information out to newer viewers. And I do support each and every one of you, especially the consistent people that constantly watch these videos, even if I'm not addressing one of these vehicles, one of the questions, and just want to learn. So anyways, moving on with the question is how to prevent rodent damage. So here in New Jersey, we see a ton of rodent damage. Literally, it's like a light switch. It goes from AC condensers and AC issues to rodent damage within like a week's time frame. So we'll see at days 5-6 vehicles all in one shot, and typically they like the 1.5Ts. I don't know what the reason is, but they love that cylinder number 4 coil and the intake side CMP sensor. They love that area. It's like they have a little network and they communicate with each other. Literally on the Civics and the Accords 1.5T, that's their favorite target. Not sure why, but that's just what we see, at least in my area. We also see occasionally some other harness spots too, sometimes speed sensors, sometimes SRS impact sensors. At times, I actually had a short on one of these. It was a fuel tank, corrugated tubing, so plastic tubing that they ended up chewing and needed a whole tank replacement. So it's not just the wiring. They're going to chew whatever they need to chew to get to wherever they need to get. Obviously, there are some preventative measures. If you live in an area, I'm going to use New York City here for an example, very congested, a lot of places that offer food, and obviously a lot of food gets thrown into a trailer, so or dumpsters. They try to go eat or whatever they need to eat, and then maybe find your engine bay, which is a perfect place for them to sleep in because it's typically nice and warm, and they try to go in there. Also, the wiring is soy based, so that is a source of food for them as well. So if you live in an area like that and you do see these New York style rats, you know what I'm talking about. They look like ginormous squirrels. So these are big rats and they will cause some damage. If you live in an area and you happen to see these, or you live by a food place, try to park your car away from that if possible. Now, if you live in a garage, in a place that has a garage, then if you see any signs of rodents or any animals, you're going to want to set some traps maybe, and whatever you need to do to keep those animals out of there. Now, if none of this is possible, the Honda does sell some rodent tape, and it's basically a spicy electrical tape. It's gray and actually has a little mice on it. Actually, pretty funny looking, and it looks terrible in the car. But if you see any sort of markings or droppings, rodent trappings in the engine bay, you're going to want to get to this as soon as possible, because that means they're in there and they're going to continue to go in there until they need to do what they need to do. Oftentimes that leads to chewed wiring. So obviously it's going to cost you some money. Even if you go through your insurance, you're going to have to pay the deductible, and chances are they're going to be back again. So when we apply new harnesses, we always try to stress the insurance companies that this is something we need to do, and oftentimes they pay for the rodent tape. Sometimes they won't, and a customer will elect to pay for the extra labor and the price of the rodent tape. So just a few different things. Some people also suggest adding mint in the engine bay. So anything you want to do to prevent from these animals costing you some money. So try to park far away from any food sourced area. If you have a garage, try to set up some traps. Obviously, if you're parking on the street, that's not really going to be feasible or anything like that. And if you are seeing, you happen to look under the hood and you see some droppings or some prints, then obviously at that point they're already in there, and you're going to want to clean that up. Maybe take it to a detailing spot and apply Honda's rodent tape. I can have the part number for you guys. If you guys need it, I can sell to you as well at a discounted price versus what you're going to pay at a Honda dealer. And we've seen great success. I typically wrap those two wires on that car 3 or 4 times, so 3 or 4 different layers, just to give it an extra protection. Sometimes we see they do chew it, but I guess the bitterness or the hotness of the tape keeps them from going any deeper. So they'll chew through it, but won't completely chew through the wiring, which is essentially doing the tape's job. So once again, if you want some of that tape, let me know. I also have a video that I made on how to apply the tape. I shared it last week in the community tab. I'll apply it to this video as well. So if you're having this issue, you could address it properly. So with that being said, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.